there's no animal handling. So the steel defender is just running with the wagon. And it was just absolutely ludicrous and fun. And they're like running over goblins and then backing up over them, and I doubled the amount of goblins and they still like went through them. Oh, it was amazing. And then the other gnome who got thrown onto the roof was like jumped in and was fighting the 5 goblins who were trying to get inside, and Wriggledust's house was going crazy with wires and shit, and they're like asking me questions after, like, are those solar panels? Yeah, they were just having a blast. It was great. So it was like, and I know that we couldn't get the thing to work, right? If you remember, and you're trying to help me. But just making the pipes the overtiles, so it was like they were walking under the pipes in the house and stuff, worked out perfectly. So didn't have to upgrade, thank God, and fuck up all my interfaces, but it worked out good.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Can you open the link I linked on Genro now and see if it works right for you?
Yeah, sure, man. Let me take a look.
Should be able to see the Dungeondraft and me.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
And
right.
I am going to get out of my Warhammer right now. Just have to save for this turn.
Let me just make it public. All right. Cool. So, do you have anything that you think it should be fun for us to work on, or should I just open something that I was doing here and continue?
Listen, I am an asshole and selfish, so absolutely I would say let's start working on chapter 3 of Dragonlance. Let's see the first of the canyons or whatever.
Yes.
But I think yeah, like I think if you were working on an environmental, like the first whatever canyon thing, that'd be pretty cool.
All right.
If there is a map that you're working on and you're like, hey, I want to work on this, I'm game for that too.
Yeah, let's begin with something
okay.
new and then we can switch later. Yeah. So I'm starting a 40 by 40 map. I always start the maps at like 40 by 40 because it's plenty of room. And then if I realize it's too big or small or whatever, I just change the size. And but for now, I like to, you know, one thing that I learned with Dungeondraft is never change the size of the map late. Like change if you're gonna change the size of the map, change it early when you don't have too much stuff on the map, because change size is one of those things that sometimes do completely bug the map. Like you do a change size and you remove like 5 squares on the right or 5 squares on the top or whatever it is you want to do, and then like stuff shifts place and that's it. Like if you saved, you're done. Like that's never gonna go back to normal anymore.
Good to know.
So changing size, it's super trivial when the map is like just a little bit of stuff and some terrain, which you can cut and it doesn't matter, right? But if you have like all the decoration and details, be very careful with that. I did that on the Kalaman castle and it bugged some walls into oblivion, you know?
Yeah, that was also an interesting thing to me. I was looking at the Kalaman castle. It was funny because I was like, why are all these doors here? And then when you were like, oh no, they're not supposed to be doors there, I'm like, oh, this makes way more sense. So I was taking stuff away. But it was, what was it I saw in the Forgotten Adventures thing that I think you'd find funny? Did you see how they started adding like doors opening and closing to some of their more crazy maps?
No, I haven't.
It was, yeah, it was wild. I was just completely baffled because they were like, oh, press this button and the door opens and closes in like some of the dungeons. And I was just like, listen, I'm all for tiles and phase stuff, but like I love Foundry when, and sorry, I'm in my kitchen at the same time. You might hear some stuff. It's my kid's home today, so sorry if she's yelling or anything. But I'm always a fan of, like, as an example, I think it was one of the tombs that you made, like a knightly tomb, and it had all the overtiles of like the stone and stuff, or like what you did in the Kalaman catacombs. Or the council room when they first go into the castle Kalaman.
Right.
The council room was a big deal to my players. Like they all came in, they were talking to people. It was much more interactive than I normally do. It wasn't very theater of the mind. Like they're actually moving through the space.
Right.
And one of them was like, "Why are we moving through this space?" And I didn't say why. I didn't say because you're going to fight here in the future, and I want you to see how destroyed it is in the dead bodies, and I want you to be freaking out about fighting undead skeletal knights here. So you need to come back to this map a few times and just have peaceful interactions with it, so that stands out,
Yeah.
which is how I use the Vogler maps too. So I haven't put that together yet, which was really funny. But what they loved it. They were like, "Oh my god, this place feels huge!" And then the overtiles and some of the people who have never used Foundry before were like, "What is this black magic?" Because they're from Roll20.
Yeah.
And it was just like, it's just a roof tile. That's all it is. But I personally like it when it's like small things. So like a beam that's over a doorway. So when they walk under a doorway, they go under a beam, and then they're like, "Oh wow, that felt like there's like depth to it." Like they're excited.
Yes.
And I love levels when it works, but unfortunately, because I can't upgrade right now, I'm using just multi-level for bouncing around maps. But when I see levels working too, like when someone flies up and they're now seeing the roof, but everyone else is on a different floor, that's also really cool. But it's it's been very interesting to see how map stuff has been changing, especially with Forgotten Realms assets and Dungeondraft and other stuff. So
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. But I think you and you know who I'm talking about, the girl Netherdeep on the Netherdeep.
Cat Valkyr, yeah.
I think you two are like by far the best maps in terms of consistency and getting stuff done. Maybe Tessa, who gets like Tessa's fast and cheap, obviously.
Yeah,
it's like $10
she gets
every
like
map.
70 maps, yeah, exactly.
Like, and then you look at some of them, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. She's like, doesn't matter. Here you go.
I made it. You have a map now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think there's room for everything. Like it's that's the good thing about open market. Everybody's style and and style of working and style of making the maps has a little bit of room. All right, so I'm here on the map. So let's see. I'm looking here on the adventure. I like to just first kind of reread what the location is about so that I know like what I'm going for. So I'm going here through the northern wastes, blah blah blah, Galaman. So I think the first place that I have here listed on my spreadsheet is the Wrecker's Edge alcove, which is where they're gonna land with the boat.
Yeah, in terms of, let me just double check something here. So open up my own D&D Beyond. Yeah, Northern Raceway. So you have Wrecker's Edge is the first place that they'll go. It's also interesting because it's a possibility. It's actually a spot where you might actually have an encounter.
Yeah.
But it's what is it? Waves crashing against jagged rocks along the shore. Beyond, red-hued canyons carve their way through a harsh landscape. In the distance, mountainous crags and strange formations just jut skyward. And it's a hidden cove. And the few rotten wooden buildings abandoned by smugglers line this cove. Additionally, a small ship is anchored near a clear beach inside the cove. And that's the elven ship, where if they go into the ship, there are 2 air elementals that will defend it against any intruders. Any non-elf that walks onto it.
Right. Okay.
So it's an actual combat encounter, even though it's not written that way, which is hilarious.
Yeah, so in this case, it would be an alcove. Waves crash against jagged rocks along the shore. Beyond, red-hued canyons carve their way through a harsh landscape. In the distance, mountainous crags and strange formation just skyward. So this is like the background. So it's basically waves crashing against jagged rocks along the shore. And that's it. That's all the description we have. And then it's supposed to have a few rotten wooden buildings. Abandoned by smugglers line this cove. Let me translate.
That's actually, you know what's interesting about this? So the idea is the party's trying to find a place for the army to camp, to land safely, because they haven't found any sort of things. They find this hidden cove. So this is potentially a place that's going to become like the headquarters of the army for a bit in this region, right?
Right.
So you have the smugglers' houses are kind of like places that they could go and investigate or like look for loot and stuff to build up tension. And then suddenly you find this perfectly beautiful, well-maintained elven boat just there.
Yeah.
And they're like, what the fuck? And then if you step on it, you get attacked by 2 air elementals, and now you're in a fight with 2 air elementals. So that's
Yeah.
pretty much. And then Dalamar shows up and is like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my elementals almost killed you. Let's be friends. Hello." You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
thinking here, what I'm gonna do to start is I'm not gonna use the Dungeondraft water. I'm gonna use the Forgotten Adventure water.
Yeah.
I think it's better. So I'm gonna start with the edges, kind of outline here with the path tool. Uh, there's some. I think these are good, but then with this type of rock.
I think I have to go back to.
They don't have this with moss, right? Nope. Nope. Yeah, I think this is actually with the moss is gonna be look cooler. Gonna unsnap it, and so I imagine they will go through like rocks that come from this corner. Actually, let's make it come from the left, and they will come like this, and then they will go through some rocks, and the cove will be like here.
You know, it's interesting now that I'm looking at it. So Wrecker's Edge is really far down. So where's the Elven camp? Elven encampment is B. Oh, that's interesting. So the Elven encampment is more inland, so it's away from the boats. So they might have actually sent their boats back.
I'm imagining which is like some kind of they approach through the water and it's covered by like a natural cave, and then it has an exit on the other side. I think that's a cool concept, you know.
Oh, if the players are on a boat that goes underneath it, I think that's super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So
They're scouting along the shoreline, and then they see that, and
I'm gonna start with the cave tool because then I can kind of make the general shape of it.
Yeah.
And then I'll fix it later. So it's gonna be like, and I'm thinking then, you know, there are like and then there's like a tunnel that leads into a smaller room that is deeper into the rock, and then another tunnel that kind of leads outside on the other side. So this
you have to keep in mind too that this is where the army is going to be encamping for a good portion of the Northern Waste too. If the characters return to their ships and give Garrett directions to Wrecker's Edge, he orders the ships to shore. He's curious about Dalmar and the elves. He suggests they investigate the elven camp and determine whether they can be trusted. Yeah. While the characters are away, he unloads the ships and sets up their first camp as detailed in the Kalaman Army Camp section earlier in this chapter. Going to the Kalaman Army Camp section. So... Interesting enough, you could actually... You might like this. This is actually interesting. So the idea is that there's tents. So you might actually be able to create them as separate tiles. Because there's a tent for Cuddle, Kurgel, whatever her name is, the dwarf, Darret, Rukel Dust, a commander tent, and then other tents for guard posts, hospitals, supply tents.
Actually don't
and then the characters' tents. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I don't like this part. I think this should just be big.
Open space, yeah.
Okay. This is just to begin. It's probably, and it's gonna end up being 40 by 40 in the end, but we're just gonna keep it like this. If I need to add something, I will. So now this would be, I'm gonna make it thicker, 1.5. And I'm gonna make it layer 200. Okay, so we're gonna begin here. Like an edge. It's a good begin. And then like I will put the elven boat like here, you know. Like parked here somewhere. I'm imagining. And then all the rest gonna be water, which we'll add later. And then it turns into the wall, which I'm gonna transition in with grow. Actually transition out with shrink. And do like this. Nope. I'm just gonna make this 100. Okay. And then we'll make the back wall. Something like this. And then now at this point I can blast open the cave on the southern edges because we're not gonna have a wall there. So I'm just gonna make the cave match this thing. Just so you know, this cave wall is gonna be invisible in the end. It's just to make the wall in the export. Just kind of how I make caves.
Totally fine.
Okay. Okay. This is nice. Kind of the main shape of the alcove. And then I think, because this is gonna be like underwater, I can make more, like a deeper layer of this thing. I'm gonna put it at 100. Under. Oops. Starting here.
Sorry. It's gonna be interesting to see the water, the way that works well with it, but
Yeah, I'm gonna... The problem with the... I like the Dungeondraft water, but it looks a little cartoonish compared to...
oh, it looks great with 2-minute tabletop. It never looks good with Forgotten Adventure assets.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of it, which I guess is a testament to Forgotten Adventure assets being like, we will not let you use anything but our stuff.
Yeah, let me just save this. Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Wreckers.
Sorry.
I don't want to lose progress. Okay, so this looks fine for now. Like this. And we can put rocks and stuff like that later. For now, I'm gonna blast open the cave here too. I'll figure out what I will do with that exit later. So now here we're gonna have the water. So I want to make the water using the pattern shape, and then I'm gonna choose a good water here. So I'm thinking, according to the art on the map of the Northern Waste, the water is blue. I think kind of a blue-green-ish.
It's mostly a blue-green. That's one that they have where it looks like there's like gigantic octopuses and stuff coming out of it while it's overflowing.
Yeah. I think this color is good. Either one of these. I'm gonna go with this one. Water Still C04.
I think C3 would be the one I'd go with.
Yeah,
I think the other one is a little too green.
Right.
Yeah, I'd go with that one. Because the other thing is also Wreckers is not deep in the canyons yet, so it doesn't have that kind of like. It's going to get like greener and weirder in some of the places, right? Like especially in the temple and stuff.
Right. I just wanna see how this works here. It's on 200. I put it on 100. It goes below. Okay. So I'm gonna make this. Make this 300.
Have you been following the Vineyard, by the way?
No.
This Friday stuff? Yeah. I'm
I saw some advertisements about villains, right?
It's Vineyard and there's some villains and stuff in it, but the drama over AI and then her Twitter posts about AI stuff and then
Oh, I see.
the big fight that happened, and then I think she's at only like 7,000 right now, of like 63,000, and she's getting kind of like she's getting depressed about it.
Tough. Yeah, I mean,
I was
it's,
just
any business is rough, man.
well, I didn't say anything, but like when I saw that the goal was 63,000 or 65,000, I was like, Cat, I was just like, I don't know if you're gonna make that because there wasn't, in my opinion, enough promotion, which that's always the toughest part when you're a small business. You have like no budget for promotion. You put it all into making the product,
Right.
and then of course now you can't promote it, so it doesn't matter that you made the product. And I kind of was like, ah. So I saw she was really trying to, like, struggling to kind of come to terms with that, but still got like 23, 24 days to go, so maybe it'll pick up. But it was something where I think just kind of I think she just definitely overestimated her reach, despite having all these great, and she got promoted, like she was promoted on IO9 and she got like hot product from Kickstarter and she had like the right connections with a lot of people, but it just didn't translate into engagement.
Right.
And I don't think it helped that she got into a fight with people and started playing games either, which is like absolutely was, I think, the dumbest thing to do just before, because there were a lot of people on Start Playing Games who would have supported her and now don't.
Oh,
So
that was the AI thing, right?
yeah, that whole thing was it didn't help that Schism and Admiral came in super aggressive and angry. And then
I am so out of the loop, man.
yeah.
I have no idea what the hell's
If you
going
went to the AI thread, it was like a bunch of people were sharing ways to use AI for ads and stuff. And then and a few other people came in and were like very anti-AI. I myself am not a very big fan of AI, because I have my own personal opinions on it. But the stance that Start Playing Games has, I completely agree with, which is they're a booking service. They don't use AI for their marketing. They don't use AI for their own product. But if other people are going to do that for their ads or whatever, that's fine. They're not, that's because right now it's not illegal. If it was illegal, they'd put their foot down on it. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. That's a fair stance to have. As long as Start Playing is not using AI, I'm okay with this. Was pushing for a complete ban of AI. And to start all these arguments, the typical one AI people make, which is the future is now, old man, stop being a Luddite, there's no way to filter, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Someone was like, there's no way to stop the ads. And I was like, well, there is. They could literally just make us choose from a folder and say you can only use images from this folder. And that would be the way to stop it, because then none of us could add AI to our ads. And then the person's like, fuck you, eat shit, die. And I'm like, I didn't say I liked the option.
It's just it's one way. It's not a very good way. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that's the easiest way to just stop AI from being used if they wanted to go that way and Start Playing Games. And then someone's like, well, they'd have an inferior product and their competitors would catch up. I'm like, there are no competitors to Start Playing Games. What are you talking about? No one else is doing this. I was like, they got lucky. They got a bunch of cash from a venture capitalist fund during the height of COVID, and they translated that into a moderately successful business. Like,
yeah,
they're not like titans of industry or anything here. They're doing pretty good as a very sophisticated booking service.
Sure.
But I was like, why are you people fighting? Why are you arguing over stuff that does not affect any of you? Like, it's not your call anyways. So yeah, there's a lot of people getting angry. So then Is left the Discord server over it. And then the way she went about it too is like, you're a terrible, inhumane being if you use AI and blah blah blah. Did a big statement on her Discord, like, if you use AI, then don't be here, kind of thing.
Right.
So there was silent for a bit, and then it's the week before the Vineyard or whatever it's called, and she starts blasting out like, Start Playing Games must take a stance. I'm going to encourage DMs to leave. Blah 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 blah, and that just riled everyone back up. And I'm like, this is dumb. This is another dumb moment. And then people started fighting on the AI thing. Someone threatened me because I made a point. I was like, she can say whatever she wants. I'm like, it's not a big deal. And then someone's like, careful who you associate with. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
What is this?
Exactly. It was just so over the top drama. Oh, speaking of drama, what's wrong? Oh, well, let's go take a look. Do I doubt I dropped something?
I'm gonna add some 5 tiles here. Oof, you see? There we go. All right.
Hello?
Hello.
That was weird. My headset just completely I was talking for like 10 minutes, I'm like, and you were like just like looking at your screen. I'm like, why is he ignoring me?
Ah, I wasn't
Well,
hearing anything until you said hello now.
yeah. Yeah, look at that. That looks really cool.
Yeah, it's starting to shape up. I mean, the textures make all the difference. I'm just, you know, playing around with them to see. I think this is good. Kind of rocky, but then we'll mix and match with, you know, gonna use maybe this one as well to kind of brush.
I'm like thinking of like smuggler huts would be cool with the really overgrown. Maybe even having like some skeletons and stuff in them to hint and like they died during like high tide or something and couldn't get out in time.
Yeah, I'm thinking, like this water is gonna be here, and there's two options. I don't know if I want to do any underwater things in this map. I don't think there will be room for that. I think they'll just arrive on boats and then just kind of, you know, set up camp around this area, and that's it. There won't be room for like diving or putting stuff under the water.
No,
Because
like primarily the point of this map is to have a space for them to fight air elementals if they go on the ship,
right,
and then maybe have it as a phased map. So it's like there's we went and we looked through everything, and then you can use this map as one of the first encampment bases. So like the second version of the map is like the army set up kind of roughly here,
right,
but not like the whole army, but just like the main command tents and stuff, and like the rest of the army still on boats or
yeah. I think, I made this like
yeah.
the cave to the north here because I'm thinking this could be like, a place like, okay, we're landing, and then, the group comes and checks the boat, and then eventually, like, but then, there's more to clear. Maybe there are some other enemies here on this other room and blah, blah. And then they have to kind of clear, and then they find the exit, and like, okay, this place is clear. They come back, and then the whole army kind of docks.
Yeah, I'm gonna check the random encounter table actually. Give me a second. So they have their high tide, low tide stuff. The waste predator table.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Just check that.
fix these dots here because they are displaying. The water's looking weird on the edges.
There's a potential of a purple worm encounter. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think the only creature that doesn't make sense is the Pelosauruses. Or the Paleosaurus.
But that's the water dinosaur, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna probably switch that out with giant sharks.
Right.
Or shell sharks
Yeah,
from
I think there is one of those in Frost Maiden on the lake, right?
Yeah. In that one it makes sense because it's a joke about the Loch Ness monster
Right.
living in the frozen north. And then two, there's a comment that if you look at some of the history of Icewind Dale, there was a wizard who was bringing animals up from Chult to experiment on them. So that explains the axe beaks. So a wizard brought a bunch of creatures from Chult to see if he could make them like winter resistant permanently.
Okay.
So you can play it up that he's just one of the experiments that got away, basically, and was living in the lake for a long time. But in Kryn, there's no dinosaurs in Kryn.
Yeah.
So when I saw that one added, I'm like, everything else makes sense except for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all good now.
I think I'll probably replace it with. I might take a look at the stuff from Ghost of Saltmarsh. Maybe replace it with shell sharks. Might work.
Yeah, I think the edge is looking nice here, right? This is good.
Yeah.
Okay, and I can also, last case scenario, I can copy the water texture, put it on another level, make it into a separate tile, so then you can just blend it and add transparency to it if you want,
That'd be cool.
And then, essentially you can just put the map, then you put the water on top of it as a separate tile, and you can configure transparency, and you can even make it overhead so that if players are going to travel below it or dive, they go under the tile and they're semi-transparent, But
yeah, what'd be cool about that is you could probably just add a little bit of features to the bottom area, like drop a few, like a ship or two or something.
And stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And then that if a player's like, I want to dive and explore the ship, you can just tell them like, oh, you found like this sword or that thing there. So it just adds a little bit more to do on the map.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Because the interesting question about this map is there's a possibility of no conflict.
Yeah.
But it might be a good spot for like. I don't know, mana cores feel like a little bit of overkill. Just looking at them.
Yeah.
6 giant octopuses or 3 giant scorpions. 4 marrow or 6 giant spiders. 3 mana cores, 2 giant sharks, wasteland dragonelles, purple worm, Pelossaurus. I gotta find something else to change with Pelossaurus. Yeah, I'd say either the giant scorpions or the octopus or the spiders. Those are all pretty good.
Yeah.
Creatures,
the issue with making this tile into a separate one and adding transparency to it is that then it becomes the edges won't work very well, you know, because then it's not gonna be.
Well, then just make it. You could make it the. What if you made it a high tide tile?
Right.
So then it goes over some of the ground stuff because now this is like low tide and then high tide. The water is like in more.
And I'm thinking I'm gonna put like some sand texture on these edges, you know, like to show that the water covers it and then takes it out, you know, like so there's like I'll add some stuff here. I'm thinking there's a way to make it. Yeah, I can make it transparent, you see.
Could be interesting.
So I can make it like this, you know, like 150. I'll leave it like this for now. And then basically I can add stuff under the water and it will appear even though it's under the water. They will be able to see it, you know. And this gives it some depth because you can see like the edges under the water, you know.
Yeah, and then if that whole area that you have over there above the waterline, you could then make a tile that goes over that for when it's high tide. And then that'll just make everything feel, if you know what I mean, like suddenly everything feels suddenly like even more kind of like, oh, wow, everything's kind of almost underwater.
Right, like I would cover like in a line like this, right? Like I am thinking that this middle area is the only area that is higher, so the tide doesn't go there. So I am thinking I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna create some more underground paths there with like these holes, which looks more like coral.
See, that's the fun for you. You get to create like 6 random encounter maps and then just have different versions of like, and now it's underwater and now it's not underwater.
Right. And I'll make something like this. I'll put on layer 200 and I'll make it thicker. I'll make it 2. This way it becomes kind of obvious that this area is more elevated and deeper water.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the tide comes up and covers this, it will make sense, you know. I think. I may have to adjust it, but this is good. Okay. And I'm gonna play with the textures a little bit more. So we have the base as this rocky terrain. I think maybe I should make the base sand and then add rocky on top of it, kind of poking out of it. This is not good. No, too bright. I'm gonna make the base sand like this. And then add a rocky terrain. I don't like how the sand goes with the green stuff. It's popping off in a weird way to me.
Yeah.
I don't like this. It's too many colors, you know, like there's orange and green and gray and sand and like it's too much stuff. I need to make them match a little more.
I think problem one is that having, yeah. That looks a lot better to me.
Yeah. And then here. Yeah, I don't know about this sand, to be honest. Just gonna paint it all with the cave floor for now, and I'll figure out what texture goes with it later. This is the process of making stuff, man. So it's just kind of fighting yourself. Okay. We'll keep it like this for now. I'll figure it out in a moment. My wife brought me some food, so I'm gonna just kind of eat it before it gets too cold. So do you have any groups that are already coming to this chapter, or is it something that it's a little far?
It's a ways away. I expanded chapter 2, the Kalaman hinterlands, significantly. So I probably, because I looked at the wastelands and I was like, if they blow through the second chapter, they're gonna get to the wastelands and then just feel completely overwhelmed with how long it takes. And so I was like, so I need to make the wastelands a little bit, the Kalaman region longer, so they get more in tune with it. Also, because I'm using Warrior of Kryn scenarios, I added stuff that made it feel better. Mm-hmm. So one group has already done the whole save the spy mission, which is in Warriors of Kryn. There's a battle where you have to escort a spy from the Estwild Woods back to your lines. So I did this whole thing where they run into one of the Vile champions, and she's being recruited by the Dragon Army, and they get the spy out, and they lost one of their companions doing this, but they got the spy out who had really important information for Kalaman about the angle of attack, that there's 3 armies that are going to attack at once. And that created more missions to look for the war machines that are being built somewhere inside of Kalaman. That there's a hidden army, and then there's an army that's coming from the north and an army coming from the east. So for the players, this is huge. Like, do we go to Wheel Watch? Do we go to this place called Trade Meet, which is a little town? Because there's a town battle in Razorcrest, so I gave it a name and called it Trade Meet because I love Baldur's Gate 2. And then they're like, do we try to confront the guys in the north? Do we find the hidden army with the war machines? And where are they getting all the materials for the war machines? So there's like all this stuff linked together. And then they still have the basic missions, like the scouts have gone missing and the farms are being raided and there's bandits. And so it's probably about, I think I pushed it out to about 10 quests in chapter 2 in total from like the original 5. So they're going to do 2 full battles of Warriors of Kryn, and I have all this stuff. So it easily pushes it from 4 to 5 sessions to a 10 session kind of run, and feels more organic, more fun, and better. I can level them up just before Wheel Watch Outpost. So you don't do that was the weirdest advancement level I saw in the book. It's like, before they enter the outpost, level them up, and I'm like, why didn't you just tell me to level them up after they did all the side quests and go to Wheel Watch? Why would it be like, tell them about Wheel Watch, then level them up? I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
They did that also in Call of the Netherdeep, when you get to Bowser Run, where it's like, level them up before they walk through the gates. I was like, that's a hard thing to time for a DM. You should probably time this based on finishing something, not just before something. That's a weird one. I like that texture. That
Yeah.
looks kind of
I
interesting.
think this is nice. Yeah.
It's kind of got a muddy kind of dirt feel. So
Yeah.
it does say it'll be interesting to see if you can add sand, but like just making it feel mud and some muck and growth and stuff. I think that works good. You have to see how it looks with you drop the smuggler buildings on the boat on, but yeah, totally cool.
Yeah, I'm looking here. There's I can use that, and I can use that with either mud like this, or I can use the mossy mossy rocks on the edge, so
Yeah.
something like this,
Yeah. I will say that from what I've seen so far with my groups, so the one that's the furthest, I have a group doing Rocal Dusts tonight. That's going to be a lot of fun to run. My other group is just getting to the Battle of the High Road, which is a Warriors Kryn battle at Vogler. So you do the whole lead up to the evacuation of Vogler. So there's huge battle on the High Road, and then you do the evacuation. I'm also ignoring the module because the module says that you should do one or the other. So all of the battle maps, like when you're like, oh, do the evacuation of Vogler, they're like, do that or do the Warriors of Kryn battle.
Yeah, I just do both. Yeah.
And I just took one look at that and was like, this is stupid. It's like, why would I
not do content, right? Like this is good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, exactly. And it's ready.
So, yeah. And the Battle of Vogler is not in Vogler. In Warriors of Kryn, it's a battle to protect the civilians fleeing on a road. So it kind of flows really well into each other that you're like, yeah, we won the battle. Oh God, Becklin's dead. And then you're like, the town's been attacked. Draconians are gliding in. Everyone's in a panic. Oh shit. Okay, here we go. Because you're staggering back from the battle, just wrecked. So that's been really successful with two of my groups. The third group is doing that battle Thursday. So that'll be interesting. And we'll see how it goes. I am intrigued because the one group that I have, they're the ones with the battle wagon, and they've asked for so many things. It's hilarious. I have like Rocal Dust's blueprints and the battle wagon and a tech tree just for the army, which is hilarious. So it's one guy was like, I did not sign up for Warhammer, and like everyone was laughing.
Yeah.
But like he's really really enjoying it though. So that actually ended up being really fun. See, I like that sand texture you have in the back. That feels like that felt to me like almost the right. It's weird. It's like the mud works really well, but then that other one you just had also worked for me. It's weird. It's probably because it's the yeah. Like I found like that worked good. It's just hard to tell if that should be like the top of the cliffs, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Or if that should be.
Yeah, I like the texture too. Like this particular texture looks nice.
Yeah.
Very rocky. I can see because this would be a different color because of the water and the constant like tied up, tied down situation. So that's why I made this kind of more grayish, more with some green.
The grayish green looks really good to me. I'm just wondering if that texture you have there is better for like the top of the crags, like the stuff that never goes underwater. If you know what I mean.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just put this like this, and because I can add more texture, I can have like 8, So this would be like here, Just gonna fill it up here, and then I'll figure it out later what we're gonna have outside. Because the idea here is that you can still use this as like a place that the players go through.
Mm-hmm.
And then like a mini dungeon of sorts, And then obviously I'll cover the inner parts here, So
that's interesting. It could be that. So if the elven boat is in that little cove right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would mean that Dalamar could come out of that cave. So you could set up a whole thing where he was like doing some research in that cave.
Right.
And he hears fighting. He's like, "What the fuck?" And then he comes out. He's like, "What the fuck?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Why are you on my boat?"
And if I don't want to put Dalamar here for whatever reason, or any DMs don't do that, you can still like have a situation where maybe this is an alcove that people would stop by, but then it got taken by some creatures, so you have to clear it up.
Yeah.
Maybe something came
could work really well
on that.
Oh, if it's big enough, because it's a huge map, it's 40 by 40. So just playing up the idea that a couple ships could land here, and then push through the caves to get to kind of like an actual space where people are able to rest is good. I think that does work.
Yeah.
Hang on a second. My daughter is being a daredevil. Hey. So last time you were doing this little dance on the couch, you fell hard, if you remember. And she just does the laugh.
Little voice.
Yeah. She is 4 years old this year.
-5.
Yeah.
5.5.
Best age. It's your first kid?
Yeah, first and only.
I got a 10-year-old who's. The thing with kids is you never have time to really miss the other kid. First, you get this little thing that's full of laughter and love, and then suddenly it becomes this thing that's full of curiosity and joy, and then suddenly it's asking you all these questions, and then spending all your time helping it, and then they're out the door. You look around, and that's when you realize they're gone.
Yeah.
But it's fun the entire time. But 2 kids, I'll say that whenever you have a second kid, I'm not saying that you have a second kid, but when you have a second kid in general, the thing that's really interesting about it is you just are kind of like shocked at remembering stuff that you had forgotten.
Right.
It's like, oh, I remember this. This happened last time, but I was in like freaking fucking survival mode. So I don't remember it anymore. So it comes back to you as like a flash of like, yes.
Right. I'm gonna do.
When they try to kill themselves by throwing themselves off of high objects because they think they can fly because of like Mickey Mouse or something. Yeah, like I think the guys who are playing, who are the furthest along, I would guess they're going to be. They just did the raided farm that you made, which they fucking loved. Though I made it incredibly hard for them to survive that, so it was good.
Yeah.
I put 8 hobgoblins, a dragon army officer with a dragonelle, and 4 draconians.
Oof.
So the 4 draconians were in the basement. The hobgoblins were in the back training with the army officer yelling at them with the dragonelle perched on the wood. So they come to the front of it, and they don't hear anything. They start hearing the training, and then they goofed up on the stealth. So then it became this huge battle. But 2 of them were in the house. So one of them goofed on stealth and dropped something down the ladder. So then the draconians kept climbing up the ladder, but the fighter kept shield bashing them back down. Which was hilarious. So the draconians kept failing, and then everyone was fighting, and it got pretty awesome. Two of the characters almost were unconscious, didn't die. The artificer jumped on the dragonelle's tail and went up into the air, and then using his hand crossbow shot the dragonelle dead.
Oh.
And then used featherfall on himself and the army officer. And then the army officer was hitting him with the lance as they were falling. So he was trying to kill him. And then everyone was just like, oh god, and then they both landed, and then everyone just swarmed the army officer, and they took him prisoner. So they have a prisoner now who's a high up rank guy, and they're having this huge debate on whether they should go back or continue to their objective, which is to get to the to a quarry where the I have a stone quarry called Brushbrook Quarry, which is like an abandoned mine, and that's where the Kender have gone hunting down a Targ, but it's actually 2 Targs, which are the Monster Compendium ones, not the ones that were released with it, but with the Warriors of Krynn extra content on D&D Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
So the Kender skirmishers are right now running around in a mine, skirmishing with these draconians. So they're going to go there, and that's going to be a lot of fun. But it was really fun. There was a huge debate about, like, everyone had a great time, but it was like a whole session worth of combat, and they were all horrified when they saw the 8 fucking hobgoblins, which is even funnier because they started saying, man, hobgoblins aren't that powerful. Man, these things suck. And then I fucking got 2 natural 20s, and then I did martial advantage and just fucking took the barbarian from full HP to like 3 HP. He was like, they are not weak. I repeat. He's just yelling at everyone. He's like, do not underestimate these fucking hobgoblins.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit.
Last
So yeah.
adventure, I put a Greek Alpha on. They were going to a bandit cove,
Mm.
tracking the bandits that were stealing caravans on the roads around Kalaman, and then there was this cave where the bandits wouldn't go, but then as they attacked, one of them ran there in despair, like just kind of running away from the group. And they followed him, and then, there was a Greek Alpha there, and it one-shot the wizard.
Oh, beautiful.
First attack, I rolled a crit, and boom, wizard down. 42
Oh, I
gold.
had Kreza Daywatcher is a Violet champion, so I call her Kreza the Red Daywatcher. So the Red is her nickname, so she's just known as Red in terms of being a bandit. Because that's all she leaves behind her. So her gang is called Red's Gang, Red's Hounds. Everything's called Red. And the Draconians and the Dragon Army are convincing her to join because they learned from fighting the Ironclad Scouts that they need goddamn scouts because they don't have any in their army. So they're turning to her, and she's like the bandit queen of the Estwild Woods. So she's like, all right. If you guys give me this, this, and this, then yeah, sure, I'll fight for you. So the party overhears this, and then one of them's like, she can't be that tough. And that was your outpost, your bandit outpost thing that you had. I turned that into a bandit outpost where the Draconians came to visit, and that's where the spy is, being kept prisoner. When they were fighting her, they thought they were all so smart, but I took the manacles and chains you had there, which is where the Lost Scouts are supposed to be. I'm putting the Lost Scouts in a different place. So instead, that's where she chains up her hounds, which are there was 6 wargs that are her hunting hounds. So she was talking about her hounds, and the guys are like, oh, it's just probably like direwolves or something. And then the wargs start coming out, and they're like, oh, fuck! And they're like running. And then, yeah, it was great. And then one of the guys goes, well, she just has a spear and a longbow. She can't, and someone's like, well, that's a weird combo. And then they realize to her horror why she does this. So she has the longbow for super long range. So she's shooting 3 arrows around, and she's doing pretty good damage. Not the best, but pretty good. And the guy's like, wow, she doesn't seem to be proficient with this though. And the one guy gets a little bit closer, so she just drops the bow and then throws the spear. And it was great. I got a natural 20 in the first throw. Oof. And he just was fucking really hurt. And he's like, well, that's stupid. She doesn't have her spear. And that's when I reveal that she's basically got a magical spear. So it just comes back to her hand. So it's just, and he's like, nice. Fuck! And everyone was like, this is not good. And then, of course, the fighter is like, I want that spear. Everyone's loving it. So it was good. She got away. They killed a lot of the bandits, but they had huge fight. They learned how to fear the Draconian mages too. I was showing why Draconian mages are evil, so I made him invisible. And then he was just standing completely stock still, and then he held lightning to blast the first person within 10 feet. So we're just doing different things like that, and it worked out really, really well. But it was fuck. Everyone was just holy shit, are all fights going to be like this? And then they go to the farms and have this huge fight with the hobgoblins and shit. They're like, okay, so all fights in this campaign are going to be like this. And everyone was just dying of laughter because the random army encounters, I've made those a little bit easier, so they choose to engage or not, or try to hide from them or something. So, I've switched a few of them out to just more goblins and stuff. Because I noticed there was no goblins. I was like, this is weird. So I just threw more goblins down. But the thing that got a lot of the players, at least what's been really fun, is I had to explain what a hex crawl is to a lot of them. Because a lot of them are module players. They're used to kind of more linear, go from A to B to C to D, right?
Right.
So a lot of them haven't played Tomb of Annihilation. They haven't played hex crawls. And I'm like, listen, this is a hex crawl campaign. And one of the players was really funny about it. He was like, holy shit, they did not market this as a hex crawl. I'm like, no, that was what was clever. They didn't want to tell you that because most people would have run away. He cracked up. I was like, this is by far the best hex crawl I've seen in a long, long time. I'm actually fucking surprised, how good of a hex crawl this is. So that has been a pleasant surprise about that one, to say the least.
Nice, man.
But yeah, it's changing the hinterlands to kind of match the wasteland side of it. I think that makes it feel really complete. So when you do it in a way that it feels like, oh, so this, you have your main quest and you're trying to find it, and you walk around trying to find other stuff, and and everything, it means that the Wasteland doesn't feel like out of place compared to the rest of the campaign. So it flows really, really good when you do it that way, in my opinion.
Right.
But I'm very excited to use the what was it? You made the tomb, right? That had like the dragon skull at the front of it and stuff. If I remember, it was like a Sylmantic tomb. I think was the one you made.
Yes.
I might be saying that wrong.
Solemnian
But that
tomb or something.
Slamanian, yeah. I can never say these things right. But I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah, I opened the campaign with that.
I turned that into a mission where they think they're going to find the bandits, and instead they're going to find them all slaughtered inside that space.
I see.
And they're going to be like, what the fuck is going on? And then when they go into the back, they're going to find all the stolen stuff. But that's when the tombs open up, and it's going to be a bunch of skeletons and one skeletal knight who's been renamed into Squire de Vicarn or something like that. And it's just this female squire with a great sword, skeletal knight who's just going to be fucking beating the shit out of them. And that'll be their first hint of undead. Like, oh, there's undead in this world. Oh god, there's undead in this world. So it's not just a shock. Yeah. My second party met Caradoc already, which was funny. And they were all super suspicious of him, which was pretty fun. He was just a knight with a bunch of other knights. He's like, which way to Calaman? And they're like, they just landed, the Vulgar landing. And they're like, you don't know where Calaman is? He's like, oh, I've been away for a long time. He's making all these great comments that made no sense.
Yeah,
he's
my
like,
group already met him also, but
he's so fun to play.
They chose not to interact with him, you know.
Oh, my group did an insight check, and I saved the screenshot. The player got a 20, a natural 20 on the insight check. Caradoc got a natural 20, and he had 22 on his deception.
Oh my god.
I like took a screenshot of him, like I gotta show it to him when they like didn't I insight check him with a natural 20, and then I'll just post that and they'll be like, great. No, he's so much fun to play. I was just having him talk, and like he's super nice and friendly. And he's like, oh yes, I'm here in advance. My lord has heard of the troubles in the region and just wishes to know of the situation. So I'm playing it that Soth hasn't even allied with the dragon army yet. He just sent Caradoc out to like, tell me what the fuck's going on out there. So Cardoc's like, okay, I'll go possess some random knight and I'll be back with some info, boss. So it's been a lot of fun playing that. So
that's awesome.
No. Oh,
yeah, so
I remember you told me about your party just saw him in the distance, right? And they're like, fuck that.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, you know, some knights. Okay, cool. Well, we'll just continue to our mission, you know.
Yeah, I got my man, I pushed myself up to 8 games. And I don't know how some of the people who are doing 11 or 12 games can do it. Definitely when 1 or 2 games close, I won't reopen. I'll just kind of let it go back down naturally to 6 games.
I can't fill many games, man. I've been, you know, I don't know if it's my time zones or European in general, you know, or I don't know what it is, but you know, I only have now the Dragonlance, and even my Abomination Vaults kind of died out. I only had 2 players left. You know.
I got lucky. I'll be honest. I think pre-COVID, I only really had 2 games going, and then when COVID hit, at one point I was up to like 6 games in total, because everyone and their grandmother was playing, right? They had nothing to do.
Right.
And then things started changing after that, which was really fascinating. So what changed was I managed to get this one group on Sundays. They did Curse of Strahd with me. We did a full run. Great group. Initial group was terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Just terrible. There was 3 people. They left really early. They left. One of them died in Death House and refused to make a new character. That's how bad these 3 friends were.
Oh, that's weird.
In terms of players. Oh yeah. And the one guy lost his shit, called me a Nazi and a fascist because I wouldn't let them do campfire talk that had consequences. Because they wanted to talk between sessions, but they wanted to do all the shopping between sessions. And I was like, kindly trying to explain to this guy who was a DM, I'm like, that's not how Curse of Strahd works.
Mm-hmm.
Like shop, you don't. It's not like Ghost of Saltmarch where
it's not trivial. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like Ghost of Saltmarch, you can do something like that where I could call it port side. And when you guys are at port between sessions, you could give me a list of things you're buying. And then I could write the prices and stuff, and we could do stuff via text. I'm like, Curse of Strahd, there is no... I add merchants to fucking Valeki, for fuck's sake. You know, I add a blacksmith, I had a potion maker, I had an apothecary, and I had a person who does fletching and bows, and a leather worker, and they all have quests tied to them. And and I was like, and I did that because there's not enough shopping in Barovia because you're not supposed to be shopping. But I add those things for just general shopping, and I give a special item from different books into it for fun. That are usually relatively mundane but fun. And the guy went nuts. So these 3 guys had left my Curse of Strahd game, almost lost my Curse of Strahd game because of it. And it was 3 new players and these 3 friends, and those friends left. And then I got 3 new players right away because of COVID. And then those guys stayed together, played all of Curse of Strahd, and now they're almost at the end of Netherdeep with me. So they'll have been a group with me for 3 years almost.
Awesome.
And yeah, and they moved to Monday. But my Tuesday night group was originally my Friday night, and they moved to Tuesday nights. They're doing Domains of Dread. They also all played. 2 of them played through Curse of Strahd together. Then that whole group formed a new group to play Icewind Dale. They played all of Icewind Dale together, and now they're doing Domains of Dread. And they want to do an Eberron after, so they're like my forever players.
Right. This is nice, right? What do you think? The color.
I'm liking that a lot more. I think it works too with high tide, low tide. I think that I'm not sure. I think you're going the right direction with the stuff in the back for like more of the wastelands, to be honest. But for the cove that's safe and stuff, because this is also on the ocean cove, I think this works really good.
Yeah.
The water definitely feels right with all of this. Yeah. And it does give you the sense of like when high tide happens, the water line goes into the cave but stops at a certain point.
Yeah. And
you
see how it's gonna be when it's with the overhead tiles, right? So
yeah,
it'll be like little. You know,
and it's also a cool idea. I love that. Yeah, and it's also a cool idea that if you build the smuggler den inside of here, it kind of feels like the smugglers built like this ramshackle den, but didn't realize that it was going to fill full of water, so you could have them like drowned bodies and shit, which is good. And then of course Dalamar's boat is just there, and it could be magically protected, right?
Yeah, it would be like here.
Yeah. So this becomes a really interesting spot because then the army can offload here. They go through the canyon, and then they're in like the drier area. So I think on the map they would be.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm making a boat, so let's go.
They have. Well, I think Dalamar's boat would be. I would call it a Jolly Roger probably. So you'd make like a bigger boat, but it would feel like it would feel like something like that. But it would have to be that it could sail. Well, technically, you can turn the sail sideways, but it would have to be something that can sail out that way. I know you got your backpack. Okay, what's going on? Did you put stuff in your backpack? Is it stuck? You want me to help you with that? Okay.
I think this is not bad.
Look who's in there. I think that looks really cool.
Yeah, I'll just put it here just to leave it as a prototype, you know. I'm thinking I can even make this like a tile, because then you can just pop it in, and then when the boat's no longer there, you can just delete it, you know.
You could also pop you could pop a secondary tile of like a plank, so like there's like a ramp. So tile for ramp, tile for the boat. I think the idea that he's got a little you know, it'd be funny just a hint that Dalamar understands the region. In the back area of the cave, where the high tide doesn't reach, you could have it that he's got like a little bit of a setup there, because he's like kind of local area. Because then he could tell the story, like they're like, what are all these other buildings? Smugglers or idiots who didn't understand the fucking phenomena of the region? Like, Dalamar just like giving you like, well, that's what happens when you don't understand the environment. You die. Like, just, what are you doing here? We're looking for the lost city. Oh, I never heard of it. No, I'm here for science, I promise you.
I'm gonna copy this. I'll put it on the tile layer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And then just do this. And
yeah,
and
I got the groups that I put together fast recently. I got lucky with my Tuesday and Friday morning. So when you're doing European times, I think it's a lot harder to fill. Especially with conversion rates. If you're doing that, you have to convert like USD to Euro so people can afford it and understand.
Yeah.
But I have a full morning. It's a 10 to
USD
2
and
Friday.
Euro is pretty much the same at this point. Like they're the same value. Like this.
Are they now? Okay.
Yeah, they're almost equivalent. The Euros dropped until they almost reached USD, and USD has been stable for a little bit. So yeah.
I usually see. What I've noticed is that Europeans are usually more inclined to want to pay 10 USD per game. Most of the Americans I've met are usually more inclined to pay 20, up to 20. I've met people who are paying more than that, but I've stuck to 10 and 20 as my price range.
Yeah.
Simply because it doesn't, if I have a cancel, they're only paying about, and there's usually at least one cancel a month because of people being sick or out. So that's usually about, your max is going to be 80 a month for 4 weeks of gaming. And that's one video game, and I'm giving enough content to equal that for most people. So that's acceptable. But I've seen some people who've gone so high, like I don't understand how Roxas convinces people to pay 40, 45.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. I could never pay for that and justify that as my entertainment expense each week. I'm like, that's 3 months, and then you got yourself a console.
Yeah, it's like kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's fine. What people, whatever you charge. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean it works. So clear. If it works for them, it works for them, right?
I'm loving the look of this though.
I'm gonna go with overhead here, and I'm gonna move. So I'm just gonna select.
But I usually find I do 10 to 12 are my night games, and those ones that fill up usually really fast. So, and it's weekdays. I never fill on weekends. I have only one Saturday group, and there are 5 people, and I think when it's done, it's done. So I think you can fill weekend games really easy in the summer. I think a bunch of people who are off and stuff get really excited to do it, but weekdays, and if they're not a young professional, if they're a student, forget about having consistency for up to a year. The person will only be with you until their next college class changes schedule. So, but oh man, I love the look of that.
Yeah, so it's starting to shape up.
100%. I love it. The gray on the outside is good. The dark mud on the inside.
Yeah.
And then
obviously this, the cave walls, I'm gonna I just set them up because I was changing the walls. And then I guess in here I can use some more like rocky, patches.
I guess you could put like a smuggler's like a hut in there, like they built a house out of wood and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe 2, like one in each kind of corner, kind of thing. Be interesting.
Yeah, I'm thinking something here, because then it's obvious to anybody who, like this is the part that would flood, that just got dragged out. So something like, I think I can build. Perhaps not even that. I think I'm just gonna put some planks.
Just like debris kind of washed around and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the ladder's too small. There was some cloth that was better.
I think if you throw the cloth into the actual like house itself, like it's like still tattered and attached to the windows, that'll work. But well, like what I'm thinking, it wouldn't be tents, right? Because if they tried to build tents, it would mean that when the high tide came in, it would probably have washed everything away.
Mm-hmm.
So the smugglers probably would have built like one or two shacks, I guess, kind of like more standing structures. But then they're in a cave, so why would they? Never mind, I don't know. Trying to think of this up.
Thing here and then put some pillars.
It's such a weird. I love how it's such a small description, and this is what you're creating from it. It's just awesome. Just the module's just like, there's shit in here, and you're like, yes, there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me do this for you.
To add some shit. Yeah. It's yeah, I think, and then I
challenge accepted.
Yeah. And there is like bridges that I can use as floor, like they try to create some kind of elevated floor, you know.
Yeah. Because I think the next one is the Elven encampment, right? And I think that one's a little bit different because that can definitely be in a more dry environment. Because the elves are smart; they're not going to risk themselves in the, which is probably what's frustrating to Dalamar actually. So that gives reason for the players to understand why he's frustrated because he's the one who's going out and risking himself. But the other guys just don't. They don't go out and like take any risk. They're like, oh no, we might get trapped over there. And he's like, how on earth are we ever going to fucking solve this if we don't go out there and risk? And that could be his whole thing. He's like, we caused this problem. We fucked over our homeland. It's our responsibility to save it. And what are the greatest of my fucking people doing right now? This smart man? Nothing. Yep. He sits here and complains and says, let's just dig in this one spot. He's like, he's decided to die. I don't die. I refuse. It's an interesting character aspect of him.
Blocking light. So this creates walls whenever you import it. I'm gonna have pillar. Oh, I can just go here, grab this one, turn it around. Yeah, I'm thinking like these two pillars kind of, oh, they're a little crooked. These two pillars kind of remained.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of the whole thing kind of collapsed, you know. It was supposed to be a door here and this cloth is hanging from one of the pillars.
I love it. I love that idea.
Yeah.
You can even have a few broken pieces of wood on that southern wall, so it looks like the wall got pushed out or whatever.
Yes.
So like the northern one is still solid, but the southern one is just pieces of wall everywhere. Yeah, and then just kind of make a few structures like that, like it was a small smuggler's cove, and then it just got wrecked.
And I'm gonna make this block walls as well. And
oh, it'd be great to be able to hint of like, I wouldn't say a purple worm. Maybe the purple worm would be cool to foreshadow here. That'd be interesting. The giant octopus is. So, let me ask you a question. DM to DM. Mm-hmm. That image is supposed to be a giant octopus at the start. You know the one I'm talking about? The big piece of art at the start of chapter 5?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well, doesn't that feel more like a kraken to you?
During a flood, right? Yeah, it's kind of gigantic. Yeah.
I've been thinking about grabbing the juvenile kraken stat block and using that instead of the Pelosauruses. Just something really dangerous for underwater. Not sure yet, though.
Okay, this is okay for now. I think that overhead here I can have more like rocks, you know, to make the wall look uneven. So here I can have some spike. Yeah, this one. Maybe this looks more like C. No, I don't like it. I'll use the spikes.
Yeah, I think the jagged spikes look a lot better along the top. That feels cool.
And then too small. I'll decorate these things later, but then I can go here with the path and shadow.
Mm-hmm.
And I can use the half.
You could also, if you want to add a little bit more detail into the ground here and there, you could create like a pool of water in certain spots. So it's like where the ground's a little bit uneven and the water's just stayed. This is where the former AAA industry guy in me comes out from video games. Ship it, it's gold. Done. Fix it in post.
Yeah, oh my god, I'm so far from done. It's not even funny.
I know.
Yeah.
I was on the brand team at 2 studios. We used to joke like that all the time with artists because we knew how artists love to perfect stuff. So we just walk in, like, "Hey, show it to us." And I'm like, "Oh, it's amazing, great job. When we ship this tomorrow, right?" And the person would just stare at us like, "Fuck you." Like, we start cracking up and be like, "No."
It's not your reputation in line here, sir.
Exactly. That was the thing that was always amusing. It was like we had to train people who would come in about that. We did, like, guys would not understand, like, but we have a deadline, and you're like, their reputation's at stake with their peers, so they're always going to push back because they're afraid of being judged by their peers, which is the lifeblood of their careers.
Yeah, I mean,
the lifeblood of our careers is keeping the fans happy. So that's the give and take. Like, we're supposed to remind them that it has to get finished. They need to remind us that it needs to be good. Like, that's
right. Yeah, it needs to be good. So otherwise, then people don't hire you anymore for other stuff, right?
Exactly. But that was the whole thing. You'd always have to like have this give and take with each side. But
okay, this is good. Yeah, and the pools, I like that idea. So back to the base map here. I think we have I can't remember the name, so I'm just gonna have to scroll through everything and find it. It's not these riverbanks. There was a new one that came out. These. Okay, but that's not gonna work. Because that has like some land on it. I'm thinking I'm gonna do this. It's gonna be cool. It's kind of like, I'm gonna do a shrink and grow here. I would think this water would be muddier. Yeah.
Don't understand people. Oh my god.
What's happening now?
Oh, just the same usual faces acting like they understand games because they obviously feel games so much and they're giving advice to people, yet they haven't completed a single campaign. Ever.
Yeah.
There's one person there who's giving advice to everyone about how to run their games, and then they go, I'm going to complete my first ever campaign of the starting adventure, Van Delver. And I was like, what? Like,
how are you giving people advice?
Yeah. It's like people have come in here. I had another guy who was arguing with me. He was talking about how many reviews he has that shows him as like one of the best DMs. And I was like, so you run a lot of one-shots? No, I run long-form campaigns. So I was like, that's like 10 campaigns. You finish 10 campaigns a year? Like, that's your actual stat? And he's like, no. And then he starts talking about like how much turn he has, like people just leaving campaigns. And I'm like, dude, that's like a 70% drop rate. Like, it's wild. That means people are only playing on average 3 sessions with you. What the fuck? I was like, I will say, to be fair, on Start Playing Games, my Netherdeep game, I went through 5 people from levels 1 to 3, which was shocking to me. I'd never seen that before.
Yeah.
But then it stabilized. So
this will happen sometimes. It's kind of unavoidable. Yeah.
Well, especially when you're playing with young, like I have one group right now where there's several guys who are younger, so they're just finishing university and college. And one of them's like, man, I love that we're going to play for the rest of our lives together. And I'm like, no. I'm like, bro, you're going to get jobs.
Should I tell him? Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
Should I tell him? No, we're not playing the rest of our life. I mean, it could happen, but it's not the rule. It is the exception.
Yeah. I was like, the number one reason I've met people who pay is because they're looking to actually complete campaigns.
Exactly.
So that was a comment I made to a friend of mine that cracked him up. I was like, what we're looking for is the most damaged players. The ones who've been hurt the most. The ones who have a hunger for actual completion. Not the happy ones who don't understand that it hurts to lose 50 campaigns in a row. We need the person who's never completed Strahd and is just happy that you showed the fuck up. Like,
Yeah.
that's the perfect client.
That
The
is.
one who's like, thank God he's consistent.
Yeah, like, yeah. Oh my God, he's not giving up. This is great. Yeah.
What's that? He has mental trauma, but he's still playing tonight? Excellent. It's like
Yeah.
I had a player, it was wild. This person's in my they're in my Saturday game. They when they started looking for games at the start of COVID, they were doing free games on Roll20. They had 4 DMs in a row ghost the group at session 1 in a week. So they had 4 different campaigns. So like, okay, I'll try all 4 of these campaigns. And the person who set the campaigns up just didn't show each time.
Oh wow, man.
And I was just like, how is that? What? So when he showed up, like he was messaging me the day of the game, and he's like, "We're playing today, right?" I'm like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure we're playing. Yes. Okay. This is a free session. Okay. It's like 10 minutes later. Is everyone still showing up? I'm like, yes, everyone's confirmed.
Yeah, so much drama.
I know, it was hilarious. And then like I think we were like in session 4 and he's like, fuck, I love D&D. Like he was so happy. He's like, yes.
Yeah.
The actual experience.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I had some players like this too, like oh, nobody's harassing me here. This is great. And I'm like, what are you
yeah.
talking about? It's just like, yeah, like some other campaigns they complain that I did this during the game and it harmed the group, and it's like, you're just role playing. That's fine.
I had
Sometimes you make non-optimal decisions because your character's in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
It's like, it's fine.
Craziest thing that happened to me recently. So we lost a player in a campaign. He actually moved to my Thursday night game. But he had a job change, like a significant one, so he couldn't play morning games on Fridays anymore. So like, good for him. And he's like, "Do you have any open slots?" I'm like, "I got a slot on Thursday nights for Dragonlance." He's like, "Fuck yeah!" So he's joined that. So we had a 5th spot open, but they're 32 sessions into Netherdeep, so they're probably about 10, 12 sessions away from end.
Okay.
And that one's gone longer than it does on paper because Netherdeep is it's been built up a little bit more with some extra content from the community, so it's like very much more fun campaign. You can probably even go 2 more levels higher. Dreaming Caves, expanded Betrayer's Rise, and a lot of expanded stuff inside of Ank'Harel, so it's a bigger campaign.
Yeah.
So I advertise for it, and I don't even advertise, I just open it up on Start Playing Games, and I immediately get 5 people applying. And I was like, holy shit, I have to choose. Fuck. So I interview 1 ghost, which is, typical. 4 people show up. 3 of them on the line, but one's got tech issues. The other one is like new to D&D, and I'm like, yeah, no, you shouldn't be starting near the end of a module if you're new to D&D. Like,
Right.
you need to find like a level 1 to whatever. But this one person stands out. It says all the right things. Everything is a woman, and I have 2 women in the other game, so I'm like, oh great, so I'll have like gender parity in this game, and it might be good for them to kind of fill in with each other. So I'm like, okay, cool. Seems great. All the check marks. Then the red flags start fucking pouring in as we're doing our session 0 and character building with her. After saying yeah. Immediately tell her, don't use Monsters of the Multiverse. We're using you can use Tasha's Legacy, but don't use Monsters of the Multiverse. We're not using it for this one. Immediately builds her character in Monsters of the Multiverse.
Oh,
no. Tell her to point by or roll. She comes back and says that she wants to do like an array, but there's a custom array, so then I have to like explain to her it's like one or the other. Starts asking for exemptions to all sorts of stuff for classes, like homebrew stuff. When I told her we don't do that, then I go.
At that point, it's like, why are you even in my game? You clearly don't like it, right?
Oh, I almost said that, but
you want to change everything, so clearly it's not your thing.
Yeah.
Why did you even apply?
So at first I'm like, man, this is really weird. This is strange. But this is where it gets even funnier, man. So I'm like, okay. And then out of nowhere, she puts the whole thing together. Everything's balanced out, and then she's like, oh, I'm gonna go Shadowkai Elf. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but this is an Exandria campaign. There's not a lot of them around. Like, would you consider any of these ones? There's Drow, there's Palad Elves, there's other racial options that are more story appropriate, and you have a lot of fun with them as well. Same story. And she's like, no, because I'm going to be a servant of the Raven Queen, obviously trying to kill people and blah blah blah. And I'm like, wait, sorry, what? And she starts describing the Raven Queen, and I'm like, that is the Raven Queen of Forgotten Realms.
Yeah.
The Raven Queen of Exandria is a goddess of death and fate, but she's not evil. And she's one of the few mortals who's ever become a god. That's not the same thing. And she did this because, specifically, the god of death of Exandria was actually a dick. So she replaced the god of death because he was a dick. And he kind of agreed to it because he was tired of the job. But she didn't even have to fight him. She just showed up and he's like, oh, thank God. I hate this job. And he just retired. That's what he did. He literally retired. It's like, fine, you got it. And all the other gods were horrified thinking this mortal beat a god. But literally the god was like, cool.
Yeah. Job's yours if you want it, kind of.
Yeah, I'm going to Cancun. Whatever. So the weird thing about this is that she's not understanding God. So I kind of started walking through the God thing, and she's like, well, that's a lot of lore to read. And I'm like,
oh, you're the one making a different character, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So you read all of the Forgotten Realms Raven Queen stuff, but you can't read this 2-paragraph thing about the god that you want to be connected to. All right, whatever. Hey, what?
Yeah.
Oh, did your show end? Okay. Don't know wait. No, you're not going to have 2 shows on. No, you have 1 television on right now. You're not getting 2 TVs. No, you're not my sister. Come on. When you get your own house, you can live how you want. But under this room, you have 1 television on at a time. That's it. There you go. My daughter's being silly.
Good.
So, but what ends up happening is we get it. We have a pretty good first session. She comes in, and everyone likes her. Vibe check pass. Everyone seems great. So the group's like, yeah, we're okay with her continuing. I'm like, yeah. We did downtime activities. I rolled like an initiative thing, so each person got like X amount of time, and we did like RP of these activities. So it wasn't just like roll and see what happens. So it was like you would roll, I would do some narration, give them some choices, throw in some complications from the random roll tables, and then they would react, and that also opened up factions and other stuff from Ank'Harel. So they all had a good time. So we get to the second session, and some storylines are getting resolved for different people who've been there for 30 sessions. Okay? So a bunch of people are resolving stuff. So she's a little bit more sidelined in this session.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to do stuff for them. Yeah, but it's just a quieter session. Now, that's only for the first half. So for 2 hours, she's slightly sidelined. She's still doing stuff, but not as big. And then they get to the second part of the session after break, where they start traveling to the desert. They have a huge fight against some Gorgons. Everything's going good. She's doing stuff. And we end. Felt like an okay session. And then I'm making notes because I laid some groundwork for her storyline about the Shadowfell. So I was switching it up to kind of attach the Shadowfell to Vermilion Dream faction. Like they're using the Shadowfell as a way to move around the city. So the Remedium is allowing them to just walk into the Shadowfell without consequences, basically. To tie it to her character. I get a message. Didn't have a fun time. Really felt like an NPC. Felt like I wasn't important. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. Well, promise me it won't happen again. I was like, I can't 100% promise that, but definitely was an unusual session because there was a series of plot lines for different people concluding at the same time. So you should probably feel more equal moving forward. Great. I'm like, good. Thought it was the end of it. Contacts me again. No, I don't feel good. This person, the specific player, and what they did during their stuff was counterintuitive and illogical. Were they doing this? Yeah, and she's saying this about another person's character and choices.
Right.
Was this because this magic item is affecting them, and is this part of the story? If not, have you talked to this player and told them that this is a group activity and it's a group story, and they can't be the main character, and you're going to guarantee me this never happens again?
Oh my god.
Second session with this person. And then says, please respond with a yes, no. answer only.
Nah.
And I'm like, wow, you really didn't have fun. That's not good. And your fun's important. Can we have a voice call about this and talk this out? Because I'm concerned about tone, that they're coming across harsher than they intend. No, I feel uncomfortable about doing a phone call. It'll have to be by text. Why would you be uncomfortable about a phone call with me? It's not about you. I have to stick up for myself more, especially when I'm being abused.
Abused?
That's the word she used, yeah.
Oh my god.
So at that point, I stop. We've only done 2 sessions. She's demanding that I basically change everyone's gameplay around how she feels. I have to only give yes/no answers, and she won't talk to me by VC, even though the interview, session 0, and our games are done by voice. And now she's saying she's uncomfortable discussing things outside of voice, so now it feels like I'm being given an ultimatum that will be bait trapped with a screenshot. So yeah, so I kind of stop and think about it. And she's only been charged for 1 game. Because I do my first session is always free, so she didn't even get charged for session 0, session 1. And that's just how I roll. That's how I do it, because that's what I prefer as a player. I know other people don't do it that way, and that's totally fine, but that's just me. So I kind of stop, and I'm like, man, your fun is really important to me. And I had to really think about this. And I was also thinking about all the other stuff. Like, she was asking for not to take the improved packed weapon, because she didn't want to waste a feat, so she wanted to be able to do packed stuff with shield and sword without improved packed and stuff. And at this point, I'm like, or the other time when she told everyone, oh, well, I'll do a ranger warlock and use rope trick, and then the DM can't ever touch us, so we'll just win everything. Was another thing she said in the chat to everybody really aggressively, and everyone's like, what the fuck? Because it's not, they're an RP group, so they don't like those kind of cheesy tactics.
Right.
So I go, listen, I'm thinking about this, and I can't guarantee that outcome for you. You're not having fun. This stuck with you, and now you're uncomfortable, but you're also giving me basically a binary choice without any nuance. So I have no ability to meet your expectations. And I can't guarantee I can meet your expectations because they seem to be very firmly locked in a specific thing. And I don't think I can meet those expectations, but also meet the other people who've invested up to 30 sessions in this campaign without conflict near the end of the campaign. So, you know what? Here's a full refund. Here's your character sheet in a PDF form. I've removed you from everything. Mm-hmm. I think it's better we part ways so you don't waste time and you can find that table that works for you. You know, I don't think you're not a bad player or anything, and I'm not a bad DM, but this definitely isn't a good fit for you. This is definitely the wrong table. Okay, thanks. Wow. But I didn't say the other people were a problem. It was just this one person. Yes, I know the shows. Come on. So I kind of mentioned this to her. I know. Look at this. I know. There you go. A little bit more. So I think everything's fine. 2 hours pass. I'm like, okay, I think that was the end of it. My instincts were wrong. Maybe I'm starting to doubt myself. And then a ping comes in. 1,250 word review of me.
Wow.
Like 5 pages. And she goes, oh, Start Playing Games won't let me put the review up because you can approve it. So this is now just criticism for you. Accused me from everything from gaslighting her to letting bad players play to make more sessions. Didn't know the rules. I must have been nice to the female person because I wanted to sleep with them.
What the hell?
Yeah, the person she's just complaining about is a woman. And all this stuff, and then kind of ends it with this line of, when you play in this guy's game, usually you get paid to be an extra in a movie, but in this guy's games, you pay to be an extra. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Well, she's saying that she was an NPC to somebody else, and the other person was main character syndrome, and I was enabling that to make more money. Because obviously people who do paid gaming were out there to make the big bucks, right? And I'm just a terrible, terrible person. I'm hurting people and gaslighting her and stuff. So then I respond, I noticed how you didn't mention the full refund in the review. Definitely wasn't the right table for you. Good luck finding that better table. Like this was the right choice. You were not a good fit at this table if this is how you actually felt.
Right.
that responds to a 250 word response where she's swearing at me, and I was just like, I'm not even grateful that you gave me a refund, because that's a way for you to silence my criticism, and probably that's why I can't leave a review and start playing games. I just like, and I cracked up, man. I just was like, well, thank you for the input. Good luck finding that table that works for you. Have a great day.
Yeah.
That's all I wrote, and there was no contact after
Can't
that.
really engage with that kind of stuff. It's like, because now everything you do, it's like, oh, look, he's gaslighting me right now. Look at that. It's like it becomes more of the things that she was accusing you of, even though you're just literally talking, and then it's just gross. Yeah.
Oh, the moment she wrote that whole fucking thing, I'm like, this is to elicit a response and to try to destroy me. And then when I go, you didn't mention the refund, that's when she lost her shit. She was like, that was just a tactic, so I can't. How dare you give me money back and silence my voice?
It's your money. Jesus Christ.
I almost wrote to her. Like, do you want to give me my money back then? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
And it was wild. The funniest part too was in the 2000 thing, the 1,200 words. She wrote, he didn't even offer me a seat on another game, and I didn't write anything back to her. I didn't want to say it to sound like I was like fucking dunking or anything, but I'm like, I don't have any seats open. Like, normally I will move people around if I can, if there's an open seat, but all of my tables are full. I don't have, every game is 6 or 7 players. I don't have any seats. Like, and I'm not going to move the person who just fucking lost their shit at me to a new game.
You're just going to lose your shit on some other game.
Yeah. It was wild.
It's not like I want to play with
you. Oh yeah, elevation there is cool, man. I love that idea. Like, it goes up and up and up. Yeah. Neat. It was wild. So I was like talking to some people, and it was also really funny because one of the players got really worked up about it because they have like severe anxiety and stuff, and they're like, "You are not that person. Fuck this person." I was like, "I've never heard you swear before."
Yeah.
Like, you are a good DM.
Yeah, people who have been through real abuse, like it's really harmful to do that kind of stuff, because it's like I know what it is to be really abused, and some random person just accuse you of abuse out of nowhere. It becomes obvious that it's BS.
Well, I just couldn't believe it. Like, and the thing that got me the most too was they played 2 games, right? 2 games, and they played with me for 16 days.
Right.
We had our session 0, first game in the same week, and then waited, and then had our second game, and then they were out, and they got, basically, fully reimbursed for not having fun, and somehow that was the worst. And it was pretty wild, which is why I've told people, I'm like, yeah, screenshot everything, have clear rules that you can remove people for any reason at any time in your games, and be prepared. And then I had to start playing games like, has someone reported me? Just, if you guys would tell me if someone had like leveled a massive complaint against me, right? And they're like, yes, we would launch an investigation. So it was a very interesting conversation. They're like, do you want to report this player? I'm like, I'm not sure. It's like, I can't tell if they were just really, really upset that they got booted from a game versus...
It's kind of more headache in a sense, right, to report it, and to like... It's more work for you, and it becomes this weird thing, right?
Well, I also didn't want to say, like, when the person tried to create the idea that somehow I was letting players... I was like, yes, that's, that is obviously what we do, us paid DMs. We sit there and let people RP to make more money. Like, that's why people pay for games. They walk in and go, listen, I don't want RP. I want to play this module as fast as possible. Don't you let these other players have a good time and develop story.
Not
okay,
on
DM?
my watch.
Not on your watch. We need this game. Listen, we kill a giant. I want a long rest. We know what we're doing, and we move on to the next goddamn encounter immediately. Like,
But yeah, no tension building, no nothing. Yeah, just go for it. Yeah.
completely. And I was cracking up too, like the idea that oh, and then that was the funnier part too, because they were complaining that the person ran off and did like exposition. So they got exposition with stuff and all this stuff, and I was just completely baffled. I was just like, the whole party heard this. This was all really important to the story. It was wild. But so if you ever see a player named Risen with a 1, run. That's my advice. But
Yeah.
maybe they'll end up being your best player. I don't know. But it was pretty wild.
It's crazy. I don't
Yeah.
think that would be a best.
Loving the way the cave's turning out here, man.
Yeah, it's now. This is gonna look weird. It's now coming along. I think that I will put some stuff under the water. But yeah, this is nice if I remove the grid here, and then it's kind of like the vibes of how it's gonna look on Foundry roughly, so they can like land here and then they'll, it's nice. I made this so that they won't see the boats immediately, like they can approach and like, oh yeah, let's go, okay, and then as soon as they come in, they go through. We can put curtains here, right? So as soon as they go through, they will see the boat which will be here, right? It will be on here
on the top. Yeah.
So then they're like, oh, there's a boat, okay, what's on that boat? And it becomes like a exploration. Oh, let's check what's on the debris on the other side. Maybe I'll put some barrels here too, and like maybe they were storing some stuff, but it's like all old now. There's a lot of decoration, and I'm gonna use some moss. The moss,
Tool,
this moss here, so I can do some like this thing is 700 above walls, yeah. So I can add some.
Yeah, so it's like seaweed that's grown over it.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting too. I think if you add another kind of broken building to that left side where that pool is, that'll probably work really well. But yeah. Were you following the it's not 1D&D, it's 5e drama?
Oh, no. It was
the Creator Summit. They're they got basically blasted at the Creator Summit by all the influencers they invited. But their big announcement, which confused the shit out of everyone, was it's no longer 1D&D, it's just 5e revised, but it's not 5e revised. It's just us improving 5e. But it's not the same 5e, but it is, but it isn't. Like, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. It was just Wizards. It was their community manager and everything saying this. Was just absolutely wild to read. They even were saying stuff like, when we all thought that the fucking race species debate was over finally? Yeah. So someone brought up that we don't like the term species. So like, okay, well, we'll review that and we're going to change that probably. And I was just like, why are we reopening these fucking... What is going on? Yeah, like, you changed it to species. Like, someone's like, why isn't it lineages? And they're like, we didn't like the term lineages. I'm like, somebody else was like, you didn't like Pathfinder already had it, that's why. It's like, Jesus Christ, guys.
It's kind of crazy because it's like the whole thing is they should have a little bit of a programmer attitude, like it's like, does it work? Yes. Don't touch it or it may never work again, kind of like it's like
they were literally, they're going to release a player's handbook in 2024 that's called the 2024 player's handbook for 5e, but they're going to have all the stuff from prior as an ADM alternative rules in the back is what they're promising. They're still insisting that everything from the playtest from 1D&D is backwards compatible. And anyone who's looked at the playtest knows that it is not backwards compatible. Like, Monsters of the Multiverse subclasses are barely compatible with anything right now, including the modules.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the fuck they're smoking.
Like,
Crazy.
5e is not backwards compatible with 5e. Like, if you play
Yeah.
Lost Minds of Pandelver with Tasha stuff, you just face roll everything in 5 seconds. Like, the whole thing wasn't built to contain that player power, you know, the creep.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, I think the Black Spider from Lost Minds of Pandelver, the last boss, has like 25 health or something, like 27 health or something like that. It's literally, and then if level 4 players arrive there, it will be less than a round. Like, if there's a barbarian in your group, he's just gonna one shot the enemy, you know.
Well, you
If
actually
level
have
5,
to like,
there's no chance. Yeah.
you have to like bump him up significantly.
Yeah, mine
So
has
you do have to
150,
change out his.
yeah.
You can take, like, as an example, you could bring in a Daggerloth, which is a Demon of Loth, or a Drider even, and that will like clean it up a little bit more. You can do a few things. But it's kind of like I pointed out to people, the reason why Aurel and Icewind Dale can actually fight a high level party is because she has 3 levels. She has these 3-tiered versions of herself. And more importantly, she's not supposed to fight you alone. It's not Aurel versus the party, it's Aurel with her minions. The only creature in the game that is supposed to be able to take the party on by itself is the goddamn ancient white dragon. That's it. And maybe the Charlatan dragon. Even then, most of the Charlatan dragon fights, he has minions in each town that are supposed to be fucking up the party too and using resources.
There's Duergar, yeah.
There's Duergar, crazed townsfolk, crazed animals.
Right.
I think even one town has Yetis come charging into the town, which is wild.
Yeah.
So he's not by himself. Whereas I don't know why DMs do this, because people need to get less afraid of having large numbers of creatures in encounters.
Yeah.
I've said that, so.
Yeah, I think we're kind of spoiled because of Foundry automation, right? Like, it makes it so easy to do it. Again,
even then, man, like, I agree with you to an extent, but like watching, there was a session where Matt had an Echo Knight fighting these scouts, and then there was like 20 gnolls on the board, and then there was the Mighty Nine, and it was a pretty intense fight. And I remember the players just being like, "Oh my god, there's so many things on the board," but he had all the gnolls go in the same time. And I think you gotta like embrace those kind of plays, but it's fucking nuts sometimes. Like I was looking at them having this huge fight, and the creators being like, "What the hell is this?" And then Wizards trying to be like, "It's not 5e, but it is 5e," and I'm just like, "This is not. This makes zero goddamn sense."
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are you even saying, bro?
Like, the new VTT is only made for 5e. That's what they said. So everyone was like, "Oh, so it's for 5e." But now, because of what they said, I'm like, is it made for 5e or is it made for the new 5e? And now you're getting the additions confused. And now I can't even talk as a DM and make sense. So when I tell a player only use 5e stuff, 5e compatible classes, they're gonna be like, which one? New 5e or old 5e?
Right.
Like, just call it 6th edition. No one's gonna be upset. I would argue that people will actually be happier with you calling it 6th edition. Because they're like, okay, I'll play 6th edition with my friends. And then if I want to play 5e, I'll play 5th edition with my friends separately. Like, it's dumb. So dumb.
Yeah, it's a weird hill to die on, right? Like, it's like,
yeah,
you're just getting stuck on a technicality, basically. You know, you could just call it 5 or 6. Like, it's just a number, man. You know. Okay, I'm gonna work on this map later. I'm kind of tired of this thing.
Dude, this looks fantastic so far. I'm super happy with it.
Yeah, I mean,
I know you're not done yet, but like,
yeah. This
great
nice,
first pass.
especially when I do this, you know. Like, I can see how this kind of like is gonna give like a good first impression, you know. And then I want to change the textures under the water here and put some rocks and, you know, some debris maybe here so they can see that some wood fell in the water. Yeah, and then I'll put more stuff in the cave itself. But basically, this is a good. And I kind of gave up the idea of having more cave. I think this looks nice enough.
I think that's actually better. I think having the stairs lead up is fine because what's really cool about it is that it's on along the shoreline, right? So you
Yeah.
can go for a different color palette for the rest of the wasteland.
Yeah.
But having this as the entrance to the wasteland and the first kind of thing, and they're
Yeah.
sailing in and a little bit of stuff to explore in here, because it's cool. Like a player could throw in, a DM could throw in like easily some scorpions. They could throw in an octopus. They can throw some giant sharks in the water. They can throw all sorts of creatures that are
Yeah.
part of the wild part, and it would make sense. And
Yeah. And I also didn't want to make a DM have to commit where it's like, now I have a cave and I feel like I have to come up with something for it. Like, if you want to add a map right after the stairs here, feel free. If you don't, then they just come out and it's wilderness and you just kind of, bring up the.
or they go back to the other thing. Yeah, and it'll be fun because then I think that would mean that you can make the elven encampment like your first, like, this is the color palette for the majority of the Borderlands. So
Yeah.
that'll be fun. Because obviously you're gonna have a lot of fun with some of those other maps. Like the nice thing about the Wastelands is most of the adventure maps are small and very, very blocky. So, like the catacombs, it's very easy to be like, and this room is 4x4, and this room is 8x10, and this room is. So
Yeah.
it's the encounter maps that are weird because you have both a high and low version of each of the random encounter maps. It gets really, really frustrating. But definitely looks, yeah, super cool that you made this. Thank you. But now you can like post this and be like, okay, guys, you have one of the maps are almost done. For all you people racing ahead,
Yeah.
don't worry, more is on the way.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I'm just gonna do the blackness here on the
Yeah.
negative space. It's so great to do this. This reduces the size of the map so much, because
In terms of file size, yeah.
yeah, because of the black texture takes pretty much no room, While if I have the mud or whatever texture in the negative space, then it becomes this annoying, just takes over file size. So this is good.
I think the other thing too, by the way, is like you're like one of the only people doing Dragonlance maps at like higher quality.
Mm-hmm.
So like for you, like it's one of those things. Like I've seen people when they know that someone's actually completed a fucking module of maps, like everyone suddenly just jumps on board that. Because like this guy finishes. Movold, is that his name, or Movold or whatever? He did like
yeah, I know
Morvold, or
Morvold
you know what I'm
Grass
talking
or
about.
something like that. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, he gets, because he did all of his Mines of Fendelver and Ice Peak. Everyone started showing up more. Like he had a huge increase when he was like, I finished Dragon of Ice Peak. And everyone's like, what? And then suddenly everyone's like sticking around now because he's actually finishing stuff.
Right.
I was pointing this out to like 3 other guys because there was this other guy who was doing Icewind Dale maps, but they just stopped. And I'm like, why'd you stop? He's like, it's uninteresting. And I'm like, bro, you're complaining about Patreon users leaving you. It's because you're not finishing what you started. And what I love about your Patreon is like when you like send a message, I just start cracking up. You're like, I have decided to stop working on this because I'm working on something else that's awesome. I will be back to finish the awesome soon. But this awesome will happen now. I'm like, fair, fine. I'm like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Like, you're keep on the Borderlands, man. I was blown away by how massive that thing is. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So
and that map is like, because I worked on it as one of the first maps I worked on when I got Dungeondraft. I only had the default assets, so I didn't have Forgotten Adventures yet. And I was just like, okay, let's see how this program works. I was watching tutorials, and then I was like, okay, let's, and being me, instead of going with an easy one, I was like, let's make the freaking Caves of Chaos, and I went with this massive 55, 65 room, mega dungeon. And I started to do it, and I did the whole thing on default Dungeondraft assets, And I was like, cool, I finished. This is great. I uploaded it to my Foundry. I had it ready on my world, and I was happy with it. And then I got Forgotten Adventure assets, and then when I looked back at it, I was like, oh my god, I gotta redo this whole thing in Forgotten Adventure assets now. And I did. And that was like, oh my man. That was tough.
I feel that pain, man. I'm going through my own pain. For the first time, I decided I was going to do a live game. So some friends were like excited for me, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to do a live game?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing a live game." And And they're like, oh, cool. So like, what game? I'm like, Icewind Dale. And then one of my friends said, I bet you can't do it with minis to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I went stupid and I was like, I bet you I can. And yeah, couple $100 later, I have every mini for Icewind Dale. And I'm like, let's do this. And now I'm just doing terrain, and I just sent the call out, and my friend was like, are you wait, like was horrified, and I'm like,
Yeah.
It's happening. He's like, no, there's no way you have enough nulls. I'm like, I have 28 nulls, you motherfucker. It's like, this is happening, and you will die terribly. Yeah, it was amazing. I got the Charlotte and Dragon, the Ancient White. I got Adult White, Too Young, a bunch of Wyrmrings. I got all of the Durgar plus new ones to add, and I got giant sized. I literally have 40 goblins, which is amazing. Goblin War Wagon, Goliaths. I have all the Quegoths, so I have like enough for the entire dungeon. I got Craig Cats. Every random encounter is covered except for elk and deer, because I think that's the only ones I didn't need. So I think the only thing I'm missing at this point, in terms of like I need to go grab some stuff, is I need the whale, which I'm not even sure I do, because there's not a lot of encounters on the back of the whale. Like you might fight killer whales, but it's not a big deal.
Right.
And I think I need the spiders, the phase spiders that are in Yathurn. But I have everything else,
That's
including a headless Arn. I have a headless Arn Golem, my Tomb Trappers, got my Frost Giants, my Skeletal Frost Giants. I don't think there's anything I'm missing. I'm about to go through it again. But it's like, my friends were like laughing. Everyone's like, what are you going to do now? Do Dwarven Forge? And I started looking at Dwarven Forge. I'm like, maybe. It's like, my wife's like, you crazy asshole.
Yeah.
Like, our kids need to go to college. They need to eat.
And it's, I think, you and me, we're similar in that sense because we're doers. Like I don't, and you'll never really challenge a doer. They will just do it, and then when you think that they're planning it, it's done already. It's like that. I'm like that at work. I'm like that in D&D. It's like, what's the next thing I'm gonna do? This, okay, and then I just start doing it, and I figure out as I go. I don't sit around planning. I'm doing it, and then, because whatever I plan, when I start doing it, I will find issues that I didn't anticipate, and I have to change the plan anyway, right? So it's like almost every plan has to be changed in the end, and you just have to just go and do it. And there is no amount of insight that compares to actually working on something and then finding out the problems as you're working on it and then just fixing them immediately and moving on. Like that's the best. To me, I don't see why, like people think too much,
Well, I was trying to explain to the guys, like some of the guys in Start Playing Games DMs and stuff. I've talked to a few DMs privately where they're like, why won't people join my games, or why, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, am I a terrible person, or my ad copy is bad? Or I'm like, no, you dumb fuck. There's just no one, that time doesn't work. I was like, you'll probably come back in a week and then a bunch of people will do it. I'm like, why are you agonizing over this? They're like, well, I need this game. I'm like, you put up 4 games, right? I was like, you put up 1 game at a time, but put up 4 games. See if you have anyone you know who would play this game. So try to find 1 or 2 people who are willing to pay, who will join the game right away, just to stay on. And not seat fillers, because seat fillers take up valuable seats. I don't like seat filling. I don't think that's actually very helpful for you in terms of getting things filled up. I'm like, and then forget about it. Talk to the people, run a 1-shot or 2, whatever, but don't agonize about that game anymore. You don't need to. You're good, So then just go in and prep something. The worst advice I've ever received was someone who said only prep for the night. So when you're prepping for a campaign, just prep for that 1 session.
No.
And I was just like, never ever do that.
No. Yeah.
I was like, oh, are you gonna say hi to Carlos? Say hi, Carlos.
Hello.
Come on. You want the headphones on? Okay, you can say hi to Carlos because I'm gonna get going now. But...
Hello.
He's right there. He's waving. See him?
Hello.
You say hi, Carlos.
Hey.
Carlos.
Okay.
Okay, are you gonna get going?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay. Good job. We're... No, that's enough, okay? I'll be back with you in a sec. No, I gotta get going now. We gotta go get ready for your brother. What? I don't know what she's saying to me, but she's giving me crap. I'll come with you in a sec. All right, I'm gonna get going though.
Yep.
But it was really fun to sit here and talk with you. I wish that other people had been here. It would have been fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do this again, and a couple of maybe once a week at least. I'll see what I can do. I like to talk to because it helps me concentrate and pass time, and I get some work done, and and it's fun for people to see some of the backstage.
Oh, absolutely, man. I think your crag camera here is also really fun. So it's looking like you're putting a lot of work into it. But parenting calls, so I do have to go.
All right, man. See ya.
As you can hear. Have a good day, man. Ciao.
You too. Ciao.